Okay, better. That's a pretty schoolboy error. Okay, we'll go again. That's pretty interesting. Well, so I can go through what's going on pretty easily. If we can get an okay that I've got audio now, that'll really help. Okay. Is that a tick for the audio is working now? That's awesome. Okay, well, I'll tell the whole story again then. So we're here in Cherbourg, and the boat's pretty much ready for sea. I guess I can give you a little bit of a look around if there's a couple folks here right now. Yeah, here we go. So if we go for a quick walk around inside the boat, pretty clean and tidy. I've been trying to keep on top of it. A bit of washing up over there. I've been trying to work through all the sink arrangements and getting everything sorted out. Underneath the floor of the heads, I've been working on the grey water tank. Over here, we've got the job I was just talking through. I guess I'll talk through it again. And then just jobs laid out in areas. I'm on top of it. Here's all my consumables. So everything's pretty organized throughout the boat right now. I'm just working over here on this fuel transfer pump situation. And oh, thank you. Loud and clear now. And the nav station here. My laptop's inside this bag, that's the driest place on the boat, so I keep the laptop there. But she's pretty ready to go. The main thing now is to get up the mast. The main press for today, Sunday, is going to be getting myself up the rig. So I've got a Z haul system. You see this guy coming down here. This goes right to the top of the rig, and then the descender on the side of it. So that means it allows me to haul myself up the mast. When I'm at sea, I tend not to use this system because it can get out of control. I just have Jumars, and I connect one to the front of my bosun's chair essentially, and one on my feet, and I climb up as a cave and might ascend a line. When I'm in port, I can use that big Z haul. It's like a 300-foot line. I can just pull myself up and down the rig. So where we're going to be working is those guys there, those dyneema loops. Those shackles have been replaced, but you see the shackles. I must have been explaining it earlier. These are the shackles that they've replaced out, but you can see where there's kind of marks in the shackles where they've been upside down essentially. That I don't quite know why anybody put them on that way previously, and certainly not why my riggers that were working on this put them back in upside down. But we are working across language barriers here, so I remain relaxed. But well, let's start again then with the explanation of what I've been doing this morning, because if you were watching, there we go, good. All right, so I'll just grab those bits and explain what I was talking to you about earlier. So these are all components from the transfer pump system. We have two 250-litre tanks, one port, one starboard, either side of the main engine, and then there's a 120-litre tank behind that in the lazarette that was added later. And this manifold had a lot of different parts on it. It was a completely different configuration this morning, and would not connect up with the new transfer pump. The old transfer pump, I'll grab it out again, why not? The old transfer pump is this guy. It's a massive 24-volt pump. It's a centrifugal pump, and it doesn't stand having any air leaks, any detritus, any kind of a head that it has to pull fluid up. If you've got a bilge pump, you know that the head is the issue, that it's got to shove it up, and the pipe diameter is very important. Well, trying to use a centrifugal pump to pull fuel along a fuel line is very dopey idea. If the pump loses its prime, then you can't get fuel out your tanks. So we're moving away from that. We've got a little a little Marco UP3 pump now, which is quite common on boats for moving both oil and fuel oil. And it runs at about 5 liters every minute. So it's like a gallon and a half, something like that every minute. So the fuel tank, the day tank, which is above the main engine, which gravity feeds the fuel to the main engine, it's got a cone-shaped bottom so that any water immediately passes through and gets polished out. Nothing can kind of accumulate in there. That tank is about 5 or 6 gallons. So having a refill time on the day tank, which is 5 or 6 minutes, seems kind of logical to me. The previous pump, it literally would fill the tank in a minute and a half, and if you missed, it would just come blatting out of the breather at the top, and completely useless. So happy to get the smaller pump on. Just having an issue with the fact that that monster had all these huge unions and huge pipes, and obviously the little guys, you know, like about the size of a can of Coke, you've got to have smaller pipes on it. So it looks like I'm pretty close now. I just need to get from this size to this size, and I think probably a pipe clamp will do that. The other bit I was showing earlier is there was a manual pump when the transfer pump stopped working like a year ago or something. And we're not like driving the boat every day, but it stopped working. So I've been pumping with one of these, which when it only fills up maybe 100, 200 mil, like a couple of ounces of fluid each time, it's like hundreds of pumps with this thing just to get what the little pump can do in a couple minutes. So we're really happy to do that, get that job finally out of the way. So yeah, what we're doing now is we're going to make little splices in this dyneema. We're going to make 4 little lashings, which are going to replace those dyneema loops at the bottom of the backstays. Someone asked me the other day, what's the effect if one of those breaks? The entire rig is being held by that backstay. The mast is a braced truss, essentially, like a kind of, if it was this way around, it'd be a bridge, right? And that entire thing, when you want to get forestay tension on it, when you want to hold back forces that might want to collapse the rig forward, it's that full running backstay that's doing everything. There is no permanent backstay. So how important are these? Like bloody important. This stuff is like 8 mil, maybe 10 mil. I guess this is core from a 12 mil, so this is gonna be 10 mil dyneema. So it's got a breaking strain in the 7,000 kilo range, like 15,000 pound range. And we're going to be putting a splice in it, which is probably about as long as the entire lashing is going to be in the end. So literally the entire thing will be braced with the tail of the splice inside it. And then this will go up and over and around in that space, and up and over, around in that space. And then we'll be getting all this stuff and wrapping it round and round in a particular method. That's the lashing we'll be doing. And I've done this before on the Mariner YouTube channel. I think it's like episode 8 of the transatlantic journey with Falcon coming across the Atlantic. I showed these splices on the workbench. So if you want more information on lashing, have a look for a previous episode. But yeah, it's great to see that some people are actually here and able to join me for this. I hope to make this quite a regular thing. It's a bit odd doing live where you're bringing like people into the situation where you are. I might flip the phone around and use the other camera for this bit, otherwise I can't literally see what it says on chat. But so far so good. So welcome everybody, and if you got any questions, just type them in the chat, and happy to answer them. All right, it should make things a bit easier. Hello, Paul. Are you actually in New Zealand, Paul? Am I going to be too far away over there? I think I am, right? If we're going to be actually chatting to each other. Oh, cool, man. Good. My experience of New Zealand is Wellington. When I came in there with the Velux 5 Oceans race, it was pretty awesome, I got to say. Another place which is like super dedicated to sailing it's been really interesting for me coming to France and like actually staying in France and interacting with people in France. I've stored boats here like over the years, probably 10 years. I've done events in the UK and then left the boat in France and then disappeared back to North America and then come back and got the boat later on, but never really taken the time to interact. And, you know, 5 seconds research online, you could have worked this out, but the French love sailing. But it's like the people down on the dock here, like here in Cherbourg, like love sailing as well. Just people that are walking to work are interested to stop and look at the boat and chat, where if you're in the UK, no one's chatting, no one's interested. And where I live in Nova Scotia, I'm out on a mooring, like I don't see anybody. I'd talk to a seal or a seagull about things. That'd be about as close as I'd get to interaction. What you say? Why are ropes used on the ends of wire stays? Well, interesting. Okay, the stays are not wire. The stays are fabric themselves. They're dyneema. Have I got a bit here actually? No, I think I've used it all up. But on this one, there'll be PBO, which is Xylon. Xylon is in a kind of field of advanced textiles, advanced fabrics, advanced cordage that we use on boats, a lot of which is branching off from Kevlar. So the Kevlar line of chemistry from DuPont gives you Nomex, which we use in honeycomb, like between parts of this boat, even up here, maybe not that bit, but over here, there'll be Nomex core with carbon and Kevlar on either side of it. It's very good in tensile strength. It's hugely impact resistant, which is obviously how we use Kevlar. Xylon takes that a little bit further. It's a bit more unstable in that it's only good for five years really, and about 30,000 miles. But the backstays are fully flexible, and when they come down to that big flying block, and then dyneema at the bottom, creating the gun tackle at the bottom that pulls the backstay tight, and then these lashings at the bottom below that. So the rope, historically you could have had wire backstays, absolutely, but the flexibility of rope and the ease in using it, and the fact that you can pop it around a winch easily, you can fold it up and get rid of it, just means that you've got the zero creep characteristic, or virtually zero creep, zero stretch characteristic of metal, or replace that with fabric and textile like it would be on this boat with Xylon. And then you've got that material though is not very good at going around tight circumferences. It's extraordinarily expensive. Like you wouldn't want that bit being the bit at the bottom. So either metal, I guess, if it's an old when I was on a tall ship on Jifeng back in the day, yeah, we had running backstays, and they were wire, absolutely, and then they would still have rope tails at the bottom. And what we had was then like a big high field lever, which you'd pull it down tight enough and then engage the high field lever and then pull the high field lever across, clamp that down, and then that's what would make everything tight. That's just evolved over time to having a full running backstay situation as you see now. So it does create a situation though where if that winch gets let off, or if the rope breaks, or if the lashing breaks, or if anything else, there's no backstay on the boat, which is a bit nerve-wracking. So it's a good compromise, but it's something that needs to be looked after pretty carefully. Rocket Sailing. Oh, hey man, how's it going? I've seen your name in the comments before. I was saying earlier on, up here on the just over to the side here is the list for folks that are doing the Newport Bermuda race. If you're interested in coming racing with us on the Newport Bermuda race, feel free to get in contact via csmthemariner.com. We've got over half a crew now ready for that one, and that's obviously why I'm crossing the Atlantic this time, is to get to Newport, and well, I'll go home first. I'll go home to Nova Scotia, and then I'll be going to Newport and get ready for that race. And we're more ready now than we've ever been for this race, I guess, before. What I was explaining when the audio was off, the situation with it, no problem, Paul, the situation with the storage in the UK, when I came across in July of last year, I had everything on board from the refit in Maine, and so I was not really wanting to do the race with all that stuff on board. So I dumped it all out into storage, and it's basically stayed there. I did try and leave France in January. In January of this year, I came here around the 14th, and uh, came into a period of the worst weather they've ever had here, and that's what I was maybe gesticulating back about wildly at the beginning with no audio. The weather in Normandy has been like history book breaking weather. They had 220 km/h winds in the eastern part of Normandy during January. I arrived just after that, but I came to the marina and there was a 60-knot storm, 60 knot in the gusts, storm running through the marina, and they just seem to have them back to back to back for like 5 weeks. So I arrived in there thinking this is the time in my schedule in my life where I've got an opportunity to do this. I set off from Cherbourg, but by the time I got to Usson, which is like on the western northern tip of France, the weather was 55 knots. And then I turned and came back into the English Channel to get away from it, to go east, because that weather system was going north. And that weather system went force 9, force 10, force 11, force 10, force 9, as it went across the Penzance Peninsula in the UK. So there was no way I was getting out into that. When you're in the western approaches coming into Europe, that bit that kind of comes across France and into the main channel going into Europe, that's called the western approaches, and everything from the Atlantic ends up in there and then starts reflecting and refracting its waves around the Bay of Biscay and around the edge of the southwest of the UK. And that means the weather situation, the wind situation, the wave situation in there can be really, really bad. So I turned tail and got out of there. On hindsight, if I had 20/24 vision, I could have gone to the UK and picked up all of the extra gear, but I don't really need all of it. I can kind of do without it, and I'd rather pay for the storage and have it there, because the idea is to bring the boat back to France at the end of this year, do the Newport Bermuda race, any other little bits I'm doing in North America, and then come back here again, because it's just such a good environment to work in, and so many service providers here. So yeah, I picked up all the stuff I could from storage and brought it here. When I came back from North America just now after being home, I wasn't able to get out of France, so I kind of jigged around the first 3 months of my year, went home, worked, and then flew into the UK, got the stuff from storage, and then brought that stuff here. So I've got all the bits I want here, so we're in pretty good form. The main thing now is to get out of Cherbourg and get across to North America and get ready for the race, which is the 19th of June is the Newport Bermuda race. So pretty much straight line from here to there now, actually, and nicely organized before we get there. So I better get on with some of this splicing. It's a new experience for me doing the live stuff, where it's an opportunity to chat and also not chat. If I'm doing a YouTube video or if I'm doing a podcast, obviously I have to like keep talking all the time, which does get pretty full on after a while. Here we go. Working while listening. Ice hasn't gone in Sweden, but spring yard work planning has started. Yeah. So my family at home in Nova Scotia is minus 14 Celsius, and there's like a meter of snow on the ground that will not clear now until the weather clears entirely at the end of spring. It's like the hard packed stuff, the snow moved out, the plow moved out the way. Nothing's happening until that gets out of the way and we can actually get access to the ground. I just came from Boston in the US as well, where I put Spirit, the little trimaran, and she's under a couple of foot of snow there as well. The good news is there's also wind concerns where she is, and as she only weighs 5,000 pounds and she's got that wing mast, there's always a worry that she's going to be kind of trembling as she's sitting on the ground, potentially vibrating and damaging herself on the hull or something. But once she's got a couple feet of snow on, doesn't move at all. It's crazy. All right, I'm just going to select the length for these splices in this. We know that the lashing is going to be quite short, so I want the splice to be a loop which is going to go onto the bottom of the block, and then the splice wants to come down and be caught in the first turn at the bottom of the backstay. So we only want this guy to be like maybe this long. It has to be at least 7 times the width of the material. So we could say that's easily 7 times. I think, oh, is it 14 times? Sorry, 14 times, beg your pardon. 7 or 14, you know, about that long. Certainly it doesn't want to be much longer than that for this kind of line. So then all we do is, because we're just dealing with the core here, right? So it's much easier than dealing with the entire line. And the reason we'll only deal with the core, it's easier to lash and it's much easier to visually kind of inspect. It's also, dyneema is very, very abrasion resistant. So it's actually probably more abrasion resistant than the sheath that would be on it. So we take this, just press a little hole through the dyneema and pass the dyneema through. Oops. Okay. It's all gone inside out. It kind of looks like it's back the same, but now we've got this bit where it's twisted. So we rectify this twist by taking the other end, not the end we just passed through, but the long part of the line, the standing bit of the line, and double it back through. And then we've got this arrangement. And this arrangement at the bottom of the splice means that essentially mechanically, it always wants to lock up on itself. If you were to just take a splice, you know, back it through, make something here, this always wants to pull out. So we start with this locking part, and this is the underpinnings of the McDonald-Brummel splice, which is the workhorse for all these kind of things that we do on when we're connecting cone mantle rope together. So yeah, I know some people with cruising boats now are looking across at synthetic fibers and wondering if they should whether they should put them onto their cruising boat. I know with Spirit we're going to be probably what I'm going to do with Spirit actually is look at a couple things. I want to replace the dyneema rigging that's on her at the moment. The dyneema rigging was put on, well, I don't know where or when it was put on. I think it was put on in Savannah a couple of years ago when the boat was brought across the world from its previous home in Asia, in Thailand. And Spirit Trimaran had her own YouTube channel and was run for years by Jason and is it Chloe, his wife? I forget now. Nicole. They got a successful channel called Spirit Trimaran, and so she had new dyneema rigging put on, which was great, except for the fact that the people that put the rigging on put on quite an old style of dyneema. I'm not sure if it was that. I think it was like SK78, which you think dyneema came SK75, SK78, SK90, SK99, SK99 Max, or just basically less and less creep, stronger and stronger stuff. And then the Max stuff has been pre-stretched, so it's useful for rigging. So if you're doing something like the standing rigging on a boat, you want to make sure you've got your pre-stretched dyneema in play. That boat was rigged somehow with something that's still quite stretchy. So when I was doing the delivery with her from Portland, where we just threw the mast up, there wasn't really enough time to get full tension in the rig. So the entire way through that delivery, the rig was slopping around. The reality is that it needs replacing out for Max, but at the bottom it had like a system which is like a dead eye, basically. Like on a pirate ship, you have those wooden things with the rope going up and down. That's a tensioning system, which is ancient and very, very good, but it's kind of like over optimization, in my opinion. If you've got time to drive along, watch the leeward rigging go loose, tighten that up, tack the boat, watch the leeward rigging go loose, tighten that up and get it all wiggled straight, great. But you could just use a bottle screw as well. So I'm very keen to see that boat get new dyneema rigging on it, pre-stretched dyneema rigging as we go into the season, and just bottle screws. So from the moment we set off on each new season, the rigging is tight, and it just takes all of this guesswork out of it. All right, so I've got my loop in here, and then that means at the moment that the standing part of the line, the long bit, is passing through the bitter end of the line. What we want to have is the bitter end of the line go through the standing part as well, and then you get that kind of lockdown where the two pieces are locked against each other before we do the splice. Make sure I pull that through correctly. There we go. So we can see now we've got this. Yeah, we've got that first McDonald-Brummel in there, which is locking it up. And then we've got a second part, which is where it comes back through itself. Then basically, this bitter end is going to go inside the main part, and then I'm going to get a little whipping and put the whipping here. And what the whipping does is it starts to create some kind of, you know, like gripping moment, and then the tension that's on the line compresses over the bitter end here, and it ain't going nowhere. Plus, mechanically, that initial little a McDonald Brummel splice we put in there is holding it, and it can't come. So even though I'm just beginning the splice, I haven't connected anything together, that already is quite a strong way for things to be connected together. So I'm going to take the tape off the end here, and we're going to use a shuttle, and we're going to put this together. So there's a couple of different ways of doing this kind of splicing. One of them is with a shuttle set like this, which is lots of little shuttles, little hook in the end here, little body that's round, and then the end. So you can kind of push this guy down. When you have this set, the full set of this, which I think I got a kit from Marlowe, like way back in the day, and it had the pusher that goes with these that allows you to push them down the line, but it's pretty easy to just work them down the line as well. Let me just get the right one. So we want to get one where we can easily lay the rope into the top of the shuttle, and remember that little kind of hook in there as well is going to help. But we're going to have to tape that on, so it's going to be a little bit more easy for us to pass it down through there. So I'll just do that now. And then at the end of this, we're going to taper it so that the splice is as smooth as possible, because you see, I can just, where I made these up, I put a piece of tape on. Now I can just take the tape, half undo it, and then wrap it round. And we're only working with core. We're not trying to pull through a proper line that's inside the sheath still. So just that bit of wiggly woggly like that is fine. Now the only important thing here is that when you go back into the splice, you just got to be sure that you pick the right bit. Don't like kind of go back in here, because there'll be a big bare spot. So we just want to nip over like a couple of, coming in here, just a couple crisscross bits there. We'll just go in between them. Yeah, okay. Good, good, good. Cool, alrighty. See, so it's all about pushing it up, bunching it up, bunching it up, bunching it up. And this guy just disappears down inside. Keep bunching it up. What you'll find with dyneema is that the little, obviously it's very, very kind of fluffy stuff. And you can see a couple little hairs. Each individual hair is incredibly strong. So as you're moving the shuttle down through it, try and make sure you are like nailing the passage down the center of the rope, and not just passing through the fluffy sides, else it's not going to work quite as well as you wanted it to. Got a song stuck in my head from Arcana, who were a band I was listening to at university like 25 years ago. I woke up with it in my head. Can't shift it. You could have asked me yesterday to name an Arcana tune, and now I've got one stuck in my head and can't let it go. All right, so that's the bit that we're trying to maintain. That's the bit that's going to go around the bottom of the block. Okay, and then we want to get all this. So this is easily going to pass down over that. So it's time to deal with the end of the line now. Did go back to wire backstay on my 80s 28-foot Sport Cruiser. Mainsail hits slightly the backstay at the top, at that beat. It hits it at the top. And wore the dyneema. Also vibrated like crazy in certain wind speeds. Sounds like a helicopter. Dude, I live with that all the time. Look, if you watch me doing stuff on this boat, I won't do it today, but I basically wear headphones all the time. This thing, when the engine is running, it sounds like when the engine's running. When the backstay's vibrating, it sounds like the engine's running. I can remember in the Clipper race in 2009, 2010, Cork Clipper, a 68-foot Clipper boat, was lost on a reef in the Java Sea, and I was the first skipper to get onto the island and kind of assess what was going on. And we had a naval architect on board one of the other boats who was going to come and assess the boat. Everybody had gotten off, they got into life rafts, and I started to approach the boat. So I'm literally spent 12 hours going round and round this little island, which is not charted, finding depths, marking them on the chart, finding a place I can position the boat, teaching my crew to like ferry glide, to hold position into the wind until I, as the captain, can get off, because I'm the one with whitewater rafting experience, to get ashore and look at the boat and make an assessment for Clipper whether the thing can be rescued. And did all of that, walked across the island. I guess it was a little bit tired. The island was like, I don't know, 500 meters of coral. That was all it was. And as I approached Clipper, I was absolutely convinced that the engine was running. She was high and dry out the water. The prop was out the water. She was completely on her side. You'd have needed a 4-meter rise in tide for her to go into the sea again. And she'd definitely been there for 18 hours. And as I approached, I was convinced the engine was running. Even when I got on board, like, the engine's running. And they had their check stays on. And they used to run their check stays on that boat so tight that it was just like bum 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 bum. It was unbelievable. I don't think I've run check stays that tight or back stays that tight on open 60s, but I know what you're saying. Hitting the mainsail is not too much of an issue. It can be. A lot of people with that situation, if it's they'll put like a big batten, like a curving fiberglass batten, to slightly lift the backstay up. So as it goes through, you can ease the backstay and then put the backstay back on. It depends on the boat, but yeah, it can be a very exciting moment to get all new rigging on the boat. Then you realize, oh, there's a reason we use wire. It's a very steady bedfellow. You say, I like D-splicer for thin dyneema. Yeah. The thing I use for thin dyneema is I use a little bit of mono stainless steel wire. And I was taught this by the Filipino guys I worked with in Hong Kong. They were all, top batten. Yeah. Oh, you've got a top band in the mainsail. That's so you can't. Yeah, I've got the same problem with mine. When this boat was originally built, the mainsail was like a pin-headed main with quite a lot of roach. And Farr designed a big crane on the back of the mast that could like just create that little bit of extra distance from the mast for the backstay to go up there. I think really it was just a stabilizing backstay. It wasn't structural. But this mainsail I've got now has got 2-meter flat top main, and it's 120% of the size. So there is no chance of that going under the backstay. So at the moment, my idea is I don't want to have 2 tip stays going up from the back of the deck. And then like on the open 60, I have 3 runners on one side and 3 runners on the other side. So when you've got them on, going up and down with the mainsail past those 3 runners can be difficult. You've got to make sure your leeward runner is completely off, triced forward, and then you put your reefs up and down. Getting rid of that top stay makes life so much easier. But I do detect there's a lot of wiggle on the top of this rig. So I'm interested to put like a little stay on it. 2 meters, right? I wanted it. I've chosen it. I've got it. It was very powerful in the Fastnet race. It'll be more powerful when I start using the water ballast on this boat, which we haven't used up till now. But it's a monster. And I will say this, for a maxi that has a completely unstayed topmast, I don't want that huge flat top mainsail up there in high breeze, twisting and bending the rig away. So it's really all designed that when the first reef goes in, the mainsail drops from full hoist to the place where the rigging really begins, which is at the partners of the cap shrouds. They come up over 4 spreaders and then join the mast, and the forestay joins at that point, and the main backstays join at that point, and there's nothing above. That's just where the mainsail goes. There's no spinnakers, there's no nothing. So my design is that that first reef drops from 197 square meters to 160 square meters, which drops from a maxi size to a Volvo 65 size. And then my 4 triangle is exactly the same size as an IMOCA 60 or a Volvo 65. And so my idea is to then just size everything as though it's a Volvo 65 moving forward, so that it's easy to spec sails. Actually, that's the easiest idea. All right, hang on. So let's we've got a pen. Yeah. Okay, so we're just going to put the first thinning on this guy. So when we get we want to reduce the thickness of the rope by about half. So all we do is take a pen and put dot, miss one, dot, miss one, dot, miss one, dot, miss one, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 and 6. Okay, so I can then reduce the thickness of the splice just by pulling out each individual thread. Pull out the first one, pull out the second one, pull out the third one, pull out the fourth one, pull out the fifth one. Okay, so then I've got these hanging out the side of it, the little ones I put dots on, and I'll cut those away, and then there's a gradual taper to what's going on here. You need a pair of very healthy scissors to make this happen. These don't look like very healthy scissors, but I'll give it a go. No, they are no good. Okay, cool. Get that done. That done. That done. That done. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5. Okay, great. Okay, so now we've got still our little bit at the top there. That's going to be attached to the block. And then this guy, it's getting a bit messy down here, but it doesn't matter because it's just about to go inside the splice, right? Okay. Run off all the extra. Okay, so that's it. So we've got the first one done. Got a little hole at the top there, which is about the size of my finger, which is about the size of the pin on those blocks when we take them apart. And to get this in, we'll need to literally take the pin out the bottom of the block, which is a great opportunity to put some lubricant in there, some dry lubricant, and just check, because these blocks are made from what do they make? Like a magnesium alloy, right? So they do like to fizz with the stainless steel components which are inside them. So I can very easily get in there and make sure they've got Tef gel in them, make sure they're not corroding any further. But that's the first of our little splices. So just got 3 more of those to do, and we'll be done. Interesting. So the yeah, it is actually. It's one of those things that, like, every job seems to be like a mad urgency all the time. You know, it's like, I need a piece of tissue. You know, it's like with boats. If you've only got a certain amount of time to be on board, everything feels like it's some kind of, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. Like, it literally been here 4 days before I can just calm down. Okay, what are we doing? And maybe do some things which are important but aren't urgent. And that's the shift, right? Is trying to get away from everything you're doing is urgent and an emergency, and actually get to the bit where it's like, well, I'm going to get ahead of the curve for once. I'm the opportunity to sit and do some what's this? Oh yeah, that's a very good point. 1 second. previous Chris had the same idea you did. Why am I hacking away with this thing? One thing I'll do with it, I'm going to throw away the scissors because I actually have like 10 pairs of scissors on board. And this is, these ones are so soft, they're falling apart. It's one of those things, again, where you're in a kind of emergency situation all the time and you're trying to get on top of stuff. You don't do things like, remember, I know there's an issue with and I have my standard like crash bag here. Like this is what I take to every job. It normally has a carabiner up here. I'm just using for another job. Put it in position, but then tucked right down the side of that. You just reminded me. Thank you so much. Pruning knife. Yeah. These guys though, I remember having these for no problem. It's a great idea. Thank you. Stay sharp forever. The issue I found with these, when these first came out, I started trying to wear them. I have a very special work knife, which is this one that was made for me in Nova Scotia, which is a very particular kind of rigging knife for the stuff I do. And that is made from an incredibly hard steel, and it's intended for work where actually when we need to cut the rope, we just put it on the block and you just hit the back of it with a mallet. It goes straight through in a wanna. But with that style always being how I wear a knife, when ceramic knives came out, I thought, oh, this is wonderful. I'm gonna have the sharpest knife in the fleet. I'll put it in my little thing. And then being a sailor, you know, you're sleeping with your sheath on, woke up, snap the knife, it doesn't work. So yeah, you got to be super cautious. Have I already been chipping the front of this? Oh dear. Oh well, it's still going to work better than that other thing did last time. And this, yeah, I've also had bits where I've thought I won't have a proper knife. I'll just, every trip I'll take another one of these, and then, you know, they're forever. But then there's no leverage available. It's rusting in seconds. I've done every kind of knife combo that could possibly be. And right now, cheap multi-tool I don't mind dropping or giving to TSA, plus my knife seems to be the best way of doing it. And then all other rigging kit like in a proper bag and off to one side. But yeah, thanks for reminding me. Great minds, right? Was it great minds and fools? Was it? Fools seldom differ, yeah. Yeah, I think I'm never quite sure if I'm the great mind or the fool. Okay, so let's get on with the next one. That guy's done already. Yeah, here we go. All right, so again, I'm looking for, I have to leave at least 14 times the diameter, so it's like 140 millimeters here. What's that, like 6 inches on this half-inch line. So it wants to be about there, including the loop about there. We can maybe double check. Well, I don't need to double check because I know roughly where it is. We don't want to get into trying to do things too the same every time. Okay, so again, because we're working with this kind of line, this double braided line, we're just dealing with the single braided core. We want to get between those fibers. See, it's all kind of mushy and fibrous. We want to find our way neatly through that. So a clean opening there, and then put this end. Does that feel equal? Should be equal on both sides. Yeah. Get the tip of it and pop it through the middle. Okay, and all the way through, so it pulls right through. And then in the line there's that weird kind of like twist in the center with a kind of 2 legs on either side. Then this bit, the lower bit, now goes up through. Oh, come on, buddy! Don't make me look bad. Yeah. So we went through one end and then we went back through the other end. I think that's a little bit too far along there. No worries. Okay, Paul, have a good one, mate. It's nice to speak with you. 12:30 a.m. like a true sailor. Well done, sir. So I'm going to move up here a little bit. Okay, cool. Just get a better position on that. I think if you were doing this stuff all the time, you'd get a lot smarter at measurements. But that looks okay. Again, I want just about a finger size. That's about the size of that lower block when it's working. And then the other thing to remember when you do a splice is that this line is going to essentially get fatter. And as it gets fatter, this is going to shorten up a little bit. So it's if you're doing measurements where it's very exact, be aware of the fact that things change length in a way that might be a little bit surprising. Okay, so now we've done the first pass through. So at the moment, the standing part of the line, the long bit that's going to take the load, is going through the bitter end. Okay, we can see that. So now we want the bitter end to go through the standing part to double up the lock that we've created. So again, we want to pick the right place, open up the rope like this and go through. Okay, so now we've got our loop at the top, but now we've got two locks, and the first one, yeah, as long as we pull on that standing part, then that first part, the McDonald Brummel part, is locking this out mechanically so it can't slide. So now we've got to get the bitter end and put it inside the standing part in such a way that it's going to be compressed and held by most splicing with this kind of kern mantle rope and double braided ropes. It all relies on compression. I guess you could say that about any splicing, but specifically here, the tail always ends up inside, and it's like a Chinese finger lock is how it works. So we take this guy, get our shuttle that we had earlier, undo the piece of tape a little bit that I had on here just to keep it all from fraying. Like this. Lay this into the shuttle, bearing in mind that little hook at the back inside there is the bit that's really going to, certainly when you're trying to work this through a line that's got a sheath on it as well, that's the bit that really kind of locks it out. And then get my little piece of tape, run it back around the outside of everything. Folded the tape over. There we go. Get it wrapped around. There we go. And if you're doing proper splicing where you're again working with a line that's got a sheath on it, you might select not to use this kind of insulating tape. It's not very good for running down inside lines, but you can get this kind of splicing tape, which is basically just packing tape. It's nothing more than that, but it's shiny, it's very thin, and it doesn't bulk out the inside of the splice any further. So once that's done, we come back to our guy here, just locking, make sure everything's nicely proportioned, and we want to rejoin in like here. We want to get stripe, stripe, stripe here. So we want to go in at that point. And again, it just means basically missing a couple of the braids, the strands, and then inside, and making sure that the shuttle is going through the middle of the rope and not kind of weaving its way through the outside. If it starts going in and out of the outside, it makes a messy splice. And at a technical level, if you're going to put this splice close to what it could do, what's possible for it to do, then it'd be easy for it to break on one of those places where there's an unnecessary thick bit or an unnecessary hard bit. If you leave the tape in there, that's a hard bit. If you don't taper the splice down, where it terminates, that change in diameter is a breakage point. So we're trying to just make it as smooth, so it goes from double to single again as smooth as it can be. All right, that's going to be through enough. Exit the shuttle. We want to make sure, maybe a little bit further actually, we want to make sure that when we do that final bit where we close it up, that the bit that we have cut and made into a taper does disappear completely inside. There we go. Right, so there's easily enough there. Yeah, let's see that little hook of tape at the front getting caught up on the fluffy stuff inside, making a mess of things. So you use them as a pruning knife, hey? Oh, hello, aka the squid. Is it Kate? Who was that? Oh, it was aka the squid. The squid was telling me about the pruning knife. Absolutely, I was trying to You know, what I should be doing is putting my glasses on. It's not vanity. Oh, there you are. It's just that I'm becoming more used to having to put my glasses on as I'm getting to the point where I have to put glasses on. The pruning, I do a bit of pruning in my other work. We have a beautiful display of camellias at the place where I work. So I've been using ceramic pruning knives in the camellia house as we were coming up to display season, which just is now, just to get little bits cleaned up. It's so easy to sterilize the edge of those blades and everything. All right, so again, take this. We don't have to do double, actually. We can do a single one, so we can go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then pull them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And everything's going to start getting a bit fluffy, as you can see. That's why we do it at the last minute. And then we get our ceramic knife. Well, this is going to be a lot easier, isn't it? Yay! Good show. Thank you for reminding me I had this. Yeah, that's the problem, hey, as well. When you're in emergency mode all the time, you know, even if you do have a little forethought, you go in the shop wherever I bought this and you think, oh, I could use that for the boat. Yeah, all of that planning goes out the window because you're so caught up with the emergency, you forget the little details that you made for yourself to make life easier. That's got to be the message of this year's campaign, is get out of emergency mode and get into just sailing the boat and enjoying the boat and using the boat as it's meant to be used, instead of forever feeling like you're playing catch up. That feel good? I feel like there's one more wants to come out of that. This is very fluffy rope, this. I picked up this rope in Portland, Maine, where there's a wonderful chandlery there. Are they Defender? No, there's something. I'll have to think what they're called in Maine. But they have dyneema rope, like 10-foot lengths, very, very cheap. There must be offcuts from the rope manufacturer, and they just sell them. So for this kind of stuff, it's like absolutely possible. So that frayed end now is just going to disappear in here. All that messiness which was caused by the splicing process is forgotten and hidden, which is what we like. There we go. Bahamas. Who's this now? 25 degrees Celsius. Oh, lovely. Oh no, on my boat just off a perfect beach in gin clear water in Exuma, Bahamas. Wow, I am not I am not feeling jealous about that. Talking about rigging, says Rocket. I do graphic work for Mastrum. Oh, they're carbon mast, etc. Pure sailing porn. I hear you, buddy. It's I've been trying to get my head around my carbon rig on this boat, because when I bought this boat, it had been used by all sorts of different people for all sorts of different things for a number of years. That's the best way of putting it. The boat had been obviously built as a maxi for a round the world yacht race. The design, the intention, the rig, everything is like, what's the most powerful, most amazing thing we can do for a mast at the time in 1996, 97. You think about what was going on then. They'd had the Whitbread 60s with the aluminum rig, and then they'd updated that to the Volvo 60s with the carbon rig. And then the guy that designed, or the guy that put forward this project, the Grand Mistral project, he wanted to build basically like a maxi Whitbread 60, a maxi Volvo 60. And that's what this boat is. To all intents and purposes, it's a maxi with exactly the same design as the Volvo 60. So the Volvo 60 was all about what's the toughest, strongest way of doing anything. And this mast was built by Andy Steiner and was put onto the boat, and was probably one of the most powerful rigs in the world at that time. The thing was then, the boats never went and did the round the world race. Nicorette did the transatlantic race and beat the like 90-year-old transatlantic record, whatever it was. That was in 97. And then these boats just did a bit of racing against each other and never went and actually raced around the world. And when a boat's raced around the world, then it has all this extra support and all this extra knowledge, and all that is absent with this boat. So the boat does that, and then the boat ends up having this interior put in, which obviously this is not original. This was for corporate work in Venice, and it was sailed pretty softly, you know, so in terms of the campaign and what they're doing. It's just a big boat. It takes out people that have got bought a ticket from their, like a book in their hotel. They go out for €100 for the afternoon, have a little meal inside this lovely big space, and then get off the boat. It's done. Nothing about that is racing. Then the boat gets a new owner, and I think it did the world arc, and it did Fastnet, certainly. I think it did the Cape Rio, or attempted the Cape Rio, but I'm not sure what the knowledge level was on board there. Certainly when I bought it, the rig is like not in any state of tune at all. Obviously a big carbon mast like this should be a massive braced truss. If it was this way around, it'd be a bridge, right? And it should have pre-bend in it and all the rest of it. It hasn't got any of that. The D's are so slack that I've just been working up over the last month, like getting all my knowledge to one point where today, tomorrow, I'm going to go up, get all of the D's loosened off, and then take the mast off jack, take the shims out from under the jack, jacking points, and then get the rig into some sort of state of tune. Because at the moment, the rig is just pumping and bending, and every time I put backstay on, it compresses the rig into a spring like an archer's bow, and the forestay kind of gets worse. So I'm really looking forward to doing that, and then I'll have a little bit of boat porn here that I can be proud of, rather than looking up at it and thinking, are you actually going to stay up in the air? 25 degrees there. Okay, I'm anchored just off Stocking Island, Georgetown. Everybody's out there. You're just all out there having fun, aren't you? The thing for me is I've never done cruising at all. I've got to keep working. I've never done cruising in my life. Like I can remember a couple of days ever where I've been on the boat and it's not work, which is, I'm not like, I don't need a sob story over that, but it is true that just the way my sailing has gone, I did outward bound, and then I did tall ships, and then I did more outward bound, which is, there's no fun in outward bound when you're on course, right? And we had a 67-foot. Now I've done lots of like adventures and small boat expeditions in 36-foot open catches and open luggers and all sorts of stuff like that. But in terms of just being on a boat, like how many beers have I ever had on a boat? Like I've had a lot of beers stood on a dock next to a boat when I finished a race. I probably had quite a few boats stood in the cockpit after a race. But I could remember probably on one hand the amount of times I've been on a boat and I'm not actually in some kind of role of responsibility where I need to actually be doing something. I can't just relax. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that point at some point in the future, that I can just be out on a boat and have fun. Oh, grew up in Narragansett. Yeah, racing everything. Bought a cruising boat, left. Is that the way? Just get out of there. Like I'm not really a racer. Like I'm here on one of a very potent race boat, and I'm trying to do this round the world event and all the rest of it. But I'm not really a racer. I started out as a tall ships person, a sail training instructor, adventure travel, expeditions, all that kind of stuff, and then that's it. I kind of like froze out at that point. I've crossed the Atlantic 36 times. I've never done it with a fridge. So there's lots to look forward to. Now I've got little Isaac in my life. He's 4, and his mum is keen on the sea. She's from an island, but in no way wants to be out on a nasty racing boat like this. I'm hoping that I can move towards something around 40 odd foot that's just, you know, sorted, solid, under control. We can go anywhere. Like I keep looking at monohulls and thinking, if I'm in a monohull, I'm going to keep thinking I could go upwind here. If I'm in a multi-hull, then I'm always going to be thinking I must find a way to go downwind. And I think that's probably the best way of doing it. if you can, is just get a multi-hull and then don't ever look back. Don't ever try and go upwind again. My problem is I like going upwind. It's just one of those things. I can't help myself. when the boat's set up right. Okay, so again, and you can use this for all sorts of stuff. Just super simple. Make the hole in the rope. So, and then pass the little end through. So, man, this is a super furry rope. Yeah. And then take the other bit and push it back through. Zoinks. Yeah. Get that inch in the top. This bit needs to go back through there at roughly the right height. There we go. Get that loop around the right size, and then that one wants to go back inside there. So out with the shuttle, and off we go again. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Upwind, I've always loved it. I've been very, very lucky that I've had the opportunity to sail like Challenge 67s, Clipper 68s, Whitbread 60, Volvo 60, and then this boat. So in terms of like upwind machines, I've had access to some of the best in the world. And for me, that does include a certain amount of like toughness. It's okay to go crashing and bashing around, but a lot of new boats don't really have the keel bolts for it, right? They don't really have the strength to be doing it in the way that it can be done. And if you've experienced something like a Challenge 67 going up against the northeast monsoon in Asia and the massive square waves that you can get there, that feeling of trust that you have in the massive structure, that's something you can really appreciate, you know. The only problem really is not the hardware, it's the software, it's the people. Are they going to be the bit that falls apart? With the Whitbread 60s and the Volvo 60s, because they're mid-90s, there's a hull design which is still somewhat traditional in the way that we might think of it, right? It's got slight kind of pinched stern, it's got a little bit of rocker under the hull, it's got a fine flare to the front, it's got like maybe a sharp bow on it. The newer boats with the plumb bows, the scow bows, the big square haunches at the back, the flat underside, they're intended for one thing. And think all round the world races now go east around the world. And when you're going east around the world, you're expecting 2/3 of the time, like 66% of the time, you're going downwind, which is why all those boats are optimized towards the conditions they're going to be in. Why wouldn't you do that if you're racing, right? You're going to make it that it's pretty good at going, and the rest of the time it's the wind slightly forward of the beam, and they really try and avoid going upwind. I had the IMOCA 60, it was Fila, it was Giovanni Soldini's boat in the 90s. And then I had that boat for the Velux race, and it, of all boats, probably goes upwind as IMOCA 60 better than almost any others. Then my second Open 60 was Dominic Warb's Temenos, which is the exact same hull as Fila, as my boat Spartan. So again, a monster for going upwind, which when I first started the idea of doing the West around the world attempt, going for that record with a monohull, I was thinking I'll do it with the Open 60 because I had the Open 60, and in terms of going upwind, it's what I've got in front of me, and it's the best Open 60 there is for going upwind. But now we have the opportunity to use this boat. We want to use this boat. This is a much better boat than going upwind than any Open 60. And with that massive mainsail now powering her, it's quite the weapon to windward. And you're right, when you find that groove, I love teaching people to drive upwind and doing it with their eyes closed. You ever done that? Where you can find the groove pretty easily, and then just as the boat comes up and you feel the stall and the slam, then you can like bear away a little bit. Oh, going a little bit too fast now. She's flattening out with footing. So you come back up onto the wind, oh, get the groove again. Like you can do it with your eyes closed. And once you realize that, you realize it's a real conversation that you're having with the boat and with the ocean when you go to windward, that it doesn't exist downwind. There's another skill set going downwind, going downwind, but upwind, it's definitely about feeling that groove and locking into it, right? Oh yeah, much better. There we are. Oh, don't let that pull in there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, good. And then as before, hold this up at the top and get everything organized, and then there it goes inside. There we go. So we've got a nice structure at the top with the Brummel splice at the top here, and then a locking dive through here, and then inside and tapered, and that length there being 14 times the diameter of the line that we're using. Okay, it's good. With three into this. This is nice. You've got 11 people watching, 8 thumbs up. Thanks very much for that. So if anybody wants to join me for the Newport Bermuda race, get your name on the list here. We're 11 people in and 9 people to go for that cruise. So that'll be starting on the race begins on the 19th of June. Gotta get myself right here. 19th of June. And we'll be starting our training on the 16th. So we're doing 16th, 17th, 18th, all the safety training and getting to know the boat and going out and doing initial maneuvers off of Newport before we go to the start line on the 19th. So I did the 2016, the 2018, no one did the 2020. I did the 2022, the 2024. So I guess 2026. So I've done a few of these Newport Bermuda races now. I do like it. It's a great race. It's quite a simple race in that you don't have to like do all the navigation of the Caribbean 600 and all the navigation of the like a Rourke Transat or something like that. But I did see in the American press a little while ago, someone had written it was the Everest of sailing, which like, okay. So then the Vendée Globe is like walking on the moon or walking on the surface of the sun, like I guess. I think certainly in terms of what most people are likely to go out and do with their own boat, it's a wonderful Everest to aim towards. Okay, so we're going to do this again. Last one. Open up the hole. Man, it's so furry, this line. There you go. Yep, put this guy through. Thanks. And then back this way. Where else are people watching from? We've got people in the Bahamas, people in New Zealand, people in Sweden. I'm in France. There we go. We've got our main thing, as we said earlier. So that's the mechanical bit that makes it that when you're putting your splice together, instead of just going back inside, that first bit makes it that mechanically, when the load comes on here, this is locking up tight, and that's exactly what we want. We then balance that by diving through the opposite way to create that lock. There we go. We've got the 2 parts of it in now. Yeah. And then this bit's going to dive inside and go through the middle of it and be paired away so that it doesn't create a hard spot. So take the tape off. Get it in there, wrap this guy around. Probably don't even need the tape, to be absolutely honest, and such a... Just take the end of it off. It's kind of makes more hassle than it's worth. Okay, and then just leave a couple of strands in there and introduce the shuttle back into the lay. Do 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 do. I've got a video coming up this evening that I've made. There's a Halberg Rassi 49 next to me here in the marina, and I was doing a bit of looking at it and dreaming about what it might be to be on such a boat and take my family and go off and travel. So I made a bit of a kind of okay, I'll tell you in a second. Yeah, the Halberg Rassi is like a kind of an idea for me of like what kind of cruising boat I would have. So I made a bit of a love song for Halberg Rassi as a video. I'll put it out tonight. You can see it's just talking over it and like showing it in a nice way and talking through its benefits without getting into like everything's wrong with it. It's everyone's allowed to have their opinion on different kinds of boats, but I think we can just have an appreciation for a clearly intelligent and solid design. Okay, what am I making here? So the backstay on this boat, we've got double running backstays on this boat, and they are connected to the deck with big chain plates, you might imagine, on the deck. Those are, at the bottom of them, got little dyneema loops, individual dyneema loops, which literally are just something like no bigger than that. And it's just that attaching the backstay to the chain plate, which is enough and has been holding the rig up, and you'll see that on a lot of boats. But because I do all this stuff myself, I don't have a skill set where I can suddenly just produce really strong Vectran or Dyneema or whatever it is loops in here in a workshop set up for doing that kind of stuff. But lashings, this kind of length lashing, doing the lashing and then doing a little Polish kind of wrap on it so it looks good. It's oh yeah, you got it right. So it's that kind of lashing is something I've always done. It's highly adjustable. It's very great articulation with it. It looks good and it's easily inspectable. That to me also is something I can release and use somewhere else or change the system or do something with, rather than having fixed loops or fixed diameters. So we are building the little strops at the bottom, and then we'll put them on later on. So I'm going to do these. Well, I've done 3 here. This is 4, and then we're going to put whippings around the top just to like seal everything up before we put them on. Yeah, so it's part of trying to get the rig as the rig should be for once, because it's a lot of times when you say, I'm not a racer originally, I'm a tall ship guy and a sail trainer, 1 2 3 4 5 6, but when you get into this stuff, you just suddenly have to start learning every part of it. And obviously it was decades ago I got into this, but I still don't feel like I'm completely on top of it with race rigs, despite having driven around the world with like an open 60 with a Triant rig. It's still one of those things where I like give it to the rigger. The problem with this kind of boat, this kind of rig, is there are no riggers that know just how to do this stuff at this kind of scale. So Muggins has got to learn it all. So we're at a point now where I do know what I'm doing, but I got to get myself carefully organized before I do it. So we're just cutting off those little tapering parts again. Alrighty, so there we go. I was just watching a delivery video. Never done lashings. Oh, there's a video about this process on the YouTube channel. I think it's literally called Lashings. I think it's episode 8 of the playlist where I bring the blue and white open 60 across the Atlantic, and I go through exactly this process then. It's super easy. It's super easy. And you don't necessarily have to splice the beginning of it because the lashing itself is so strong. With smaller loads, you can just literally tie on the first bit, but we're here and we want to do it properly. This last year with this boat has been about going back to basics and just like being like, I know now if I open the bilges, everything in there is like a known state. It's not perfect, but it's a known state. Port and starboard, bilge pumps, the piping. Some of the piping's pretty old, but I could, replace that, and then it's just paint after that. The keel bolts, we got 25 M42 bolts all torqued up in main. That's feeling good. The bow has not got any detritus in there. It's just sails and rope, and that's it. That feels good. The engine bay is a mess. We don't talk about that. The nav station now is dry, like it's not leaking in there. Just about ready to get the nav seat put in, like little bit by little bit. But even like the grey tank, like finally getting the top of it sealed in place, an inspection hatch cut into the top of it so I don't have to lift it every time there's a problem inside with the pump. Just those kind of things, like suddenly everything starts to lift, everything starts to feel better. This mess here of this manifold off the transfer pump, I was doing this just before I started this live stream. This has been a forever problem. I've just been kind of like dipping around. It's a race boat, like it's meant to be hard, but when you get into a point where you're having to use superior skills that should be avoided with superior judgment, like something's not quite right. I was watching a delivery video of the Halberg Rassi 69 to a boat show. Yeah, I must say I was a bit disappointed hearing all the creaking of the cabinets and floorboards. Oh no, really? I think I remember, where was I? I was on a Beneteau. I worked for a super yacht and yacht agency in Hong Kong called Simpson Marine, and we used to do Beneteau, Lagoon, and Azimuth. And basically, Mike Simpson, who started that agency in the 70s, had educated the Chinese market. If you're like a real sailor, like you just have to have a sailing boat, then it's a Beneteau for you. If you're a businessman and you want to go fast, you're having an Azimuth. And if you need to like entertain your friends, like if you need to have people come on board and watch TV with you, then you're buying a Lagoon, right? That was it. So people just ordering these things and delivering a Beneteau and then realizing why they're called bendy toys. And it's like the Beneteaus are great for what Beneteaus do. I think I would have one for the kind of cruising I want to do. But when I was taking it down the South China Sea and the hull is moving like this and the bulkheads, which are just slotted into like little, I don't know, kind of receiving grooves in the hull, and I can see the bulkheads moving this way and the hull moving against it. I was like, okay, oh, that was what was that boat? Was it not an Oceanus? I don't know what it was, but it's, yeah, I'm a bit sad to hear that a Halberg Rassi, was it because it was new though, maybe? A few creaks and groans, like the Mary Rose creaked and groaned before she sank. For 7 million, whoa, really? 7 million for a 69 footer? Okay. I feel like there are other things you could do. I remember when I was younger, I would be with my brother in Holland, and we'd often like you'd be sitting having a beer or something. You'd be like, right, so if you had a time machine and you had to go back in time and you know you were going to take over the world, how would you do it? That kind of conversation. Or the other one, of course, is if you won the lottery, what would you do? And mine was always like, I'm going to buy a Lamborghini and a big house or whatever it is you say. And my brother was always like, I'm going to rent expensive cars and rent expensive boats. I was like, really? That just seems very boring. And then as you become older, you realize the common sense in that approach, which is you don't want to pay 7 million and then discover that all the cabinets are creaking when you could have paid 200,000 and had the one next door. But then I guess if you've got 7 million to drop on a boat, that's you want a different kind of experience than a second-hand boat, don't you? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, it might have just been that it was the first one and they were taking it to the boat show. Um, I know when I was on what boat was that? Cyrax. They had like lead lined mahogany floorboards with felt receivers and detent catches, and like there was no creaking or anything on that boat. But then it was in its day in 2000, like a 14 million euro, 110 foot, private yacht. But it was at the very best of what could be done with woodwork. I would have thought that the Halberg Rassi would be. I think of Halberg Rassi kind of being up there, but I guess I think of Halberg Rassi as being strong and robust and built with like common sense kind of attitudes towards things. I would imagine the cabinetry to be very high quality, heavy, maybe, but I don't think in any way there's an opportunity to it just because I think they're good boats doesn't mean that the cabinetry's good. It doesn't mean that it's just the attitude they persuade. I guess it's like why you buy a watch that's on someone's wrist who's doing an offshore race. You don't really want to do the offshore race. You just want the way the watch makes you feel. It's kind of the same with the Halberg Rassi. I look at it like sitting in the marina. I'm like, that looks much better being over there than over here. But if we were going to sea, I'd much rather be over here. Yeah, yeah. It's what happens when they let the accountants have too much say. Absolutely. But you do know that, of course, when you get like technician type people like ourselves in charge of businesses, those companies normally go wrong for another reason, which is that we all put far too much effort into the little things and forget the big picture. Certainly, that was my experience of business. I would much rather know less about sailing and more about business if I was going to move into that world again. Um, okay, so we've got these guys ready to go. So we should get ourselves some line here. We've got waxed cotton stuff here. What's this? 1.5 mil. This stuff is like Noah was stitching up the door on the ark with this stuff, right? It's waxed, it slides through easily, it lays down and gives a really nice bead, and it itself is very, very resistant stuff. Okay, so the question is, how is getting the mainsail track section fabricated? It's Sunday here in France, so the rigger came back to me on Friday and said we can't get the section, which was a little bit like, did give you a month for that. The main thing would be that I think there's a way of getting out of it a little bit easier actually than getting another piece fabricated, if indeed that starts to take a lot of time. The heel fitting on the front of the mast, which is for the old spinnaker pole, which you don't use anymore, that's all still there, and I don't need it. I don't want to remove it, and I'm pretty sure it's exactly the same track. When I get the old headboard car, which is here, this is not the one that's in use, just an old one I brought from storage, and I get the tall arm balls that are in here and put them all together, this fits on the track that's on the front of the mast. So unless someone replaced all the mainsail track on the back of this mast, this fitting on there proves that the mast from the track will fit in the mainsail. So I have made an exploratory cut with my zip disc on that piece of track on the front, and if need to, I will cut through the stainless steel fasteners with a zip disc in behind the track and remove it and then fabricate it into something that will work. So By Monday, I will have all the measurements and everything in place. These obviously give a fantastic pattern to the engineer that's building the track section for me, plus the measurements. Plus the good thing is, because it was the missing piece of track section, it means there's a cut off piece of track section here, which you can get at and get a pattern. So for me, I would just get a piece of card and put it over the track section, and then get a 10mm spanner and just tap, 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 tap all the way around the edge of it until you make the profile in the card. And then that's it. That's the size, like pretty much within a mil, that's the size. And then give millimeter measurements as well. So here's the pattern, here's the curves, here's everything. And then there's millimeter widths. And then here's the components that it needs to interact with. Here's the overall length. Like it's a pretty, it's not, I'm not a machinist, so I'm not saying it's easy to machine it, but every piece of information is available to give them so that they can get it done, I hope, relatively quickly. So I really want to be leaving tomorrow. So it is one of those things now where two things need to happen. I need to pay a bill here, which is for my spinnaker. I have a A2, which was damaged, which they've been repairing. They've also done a repair on the boom bag. The riggers have also done a little bit of work on the back of the boat, just taking all of those old shackles off, which was useful, and putting penetrating oil on the D's. Although I would say they didn't go any further with the rigging, which was kind of a bit weak tea, but there we go. It is what it is. I think it just overwhelms them, this kind of rig. They don't know. They know that they don't know what it is they need to do, I guess, is what happens. So they start slowing down and trying to get as much information from anywhere. Like for me, I would have got up there, got the D's loosened off, and then been sitting pretty here, ready to tune the rig once I got the information. They're waiting for the information before they like crack the D's. You're like, what happens if you get the information and then the D's don't come off as easy as you might think? You're just adding days of delay. So that's been a bit disappointing, but I've got to pay that bill, and I've got to pay the bill for the Newport Bermuda race. So I've got about 4 people here who owe money for the Newport Bermuda race that they're coming on. Once that money's in, then it's easy to get out of here and get on our way and get over to North America, which the start of the race is the start of the event for us is the 17th of June. So we've got lots of time. There's no problem there. I'm certainly not sad that I turned around and came back after that, the amount of wind and the amount of weather that I was involved in when I came across last time. It was when I tried to leave, last time when I was out on the channel last, it was like 55 knots. I haven't included the footage yet in any of the videos, but it was pretty wild. But with this kind of boat, even if it's blowing 55 knots and you just put all of the get back to work, then I've got an internal monologue that says I got to get back to work. The weather was bad enough that if I'd have come out and gone into the Atlantic at that point, as I was coming down the coast of Portugal and Spain, it would have been all a lee shore, and that is just not seaman-like. But to be out in 55 knots in a boat like this, just put all the sails down, hunker down basically, put the helm hard over to one side, and the boat just sat. I think we were doing about 1.5 knots moving around at that time. I rested for 20 hours and I did 24 miles downwind. So yeah. All right, so let's get this show on the road. We need the needles, which should be in an Altoids tin in here. Hey, I can hear it. All right, so we go old school with the needle and palm. And then great place to keep your keep your needles. If they start getting rusty, it gets worse and worse and worse. Yeah, looks good. You don't want them rusty. It just makes it so much harder. All right. This stuff always take a fathom. Like, there's not much point taking much less than that. I'll use it for a few things. And then needle in. Okay, so that's all. And then just double up. Right. Let's get the first one. Now, just before we do this, maybe make a cup of coffee or something and get ready. Hi, is that Mac? Well, 549. Man, some of these addresses. I remember when I first got my first email address back in the day. It was like you could basically pick anything you want. If you're called John Smith, you could probably still pick up like John Smith 5 or John Smith 6. But now, of course, with YouTube and there's a desire and a want to have anonymity, or you've got so many accounts or anything. It's like the names are like, okay, Mac 6549. Big Mac. There you go. We can go with that. Alrighty. So this guy now inside here, we know we've got the Brummel splice at the top of it, which is mechanically locking it. We then got the next bit where it locks back through itself. So the standing part went through the bitter part and the bitter part went through the standing part. And then we get down to here where it goes inside here. So we want to take this little pinch point here and we want to put a whipping round there so that this sucker is not coming undone. You could do it at the top, you could do it anywhere else, but there's a natural kind of like a thinning of it, a narrowing of it as it dives through. So you better just to go where the thinnest point is. Otherwise, the little seizing has got a little kind of like desire to go to where it's thinner. If you make it where it's fat, it will desire to go where it's thin, right? You always want to, with rope work, you always want to recognize the rope's always going to end up trying to go loose. So put it where it's loose. Now, I think, you know, it might look nicer in there or something, but if we grab that pinch point or that pinch point, it's going to grab a hold of it and then it will never let go. So I have to think about this for a second. I just want to make sure I've got everything right before I do this. I do see there's a little, see how those two are like parallel to each other there? See that little tiny hole through there? I don't like that at all. I want to just get that pulled through so it's, so those two pieces are like locked up against each other. And it's probably just through chatting and not recognizing that. Okay, cool. You can kind of ball this up a little bit, reduce that finger locking kind of effect, and then essentially slide this back up a little bit and get everything settled in right. It's that old thing, like if it's worth doing, it's probably worth doing, right? If you know how to do something better, do it better. Like if it's going to come apart, I want my best work coming apart and then I'll learn rather than, oh, Justin, hey man, how's it going? Just give the needle a dab of Teflon spray and wipe off. Ooh, that's a good idea. That's a very good idea. This is where I live and learn, right? Justin, it's so good to see you, man. That's awesome. This is great. So in with my tin of whatnots here, right next door is a load of, this is like Teflon for idiots. It's like going to get the rust off and at least get back to something like chromed metal. I can remember doing a stitching job in the Southern Ocean. We were just Teflon spray. Have I got any Teflon spray here? Hang on, I probably have. Give me 1 second. I'm sure I've got something here like that. All right. Ha ha ha. Sure. Okay. Hey, great tips. Thank you very much. I love it. Yeah, Harken sailcoat. I don't have any sailcoat here actually. Yeah, I think that's in the, like, I'm still in the, look, if I give you a bit of a look around here. I might go and make a cup of coffee in a moment, actually. It's a bit of an odd thing doing live as opposed to doing a video, because it's like I'm either talking or it's silent. So I normally always have something on. Look, this is all of my consumables. It's a bit of a mess right now because everything's in play. But there's every kind of thing that you could possibly require. This is just like, I don't know why I've got so much of this. This is grease. I probably don't need it on this boat. But every kind of whatnot. And this is actually me reducing it to the minimum. So over here, I've got a bit of a repair on the side of the boat that I'm working towards. So I've got all of my epoxy and everything out in this, and then the hot air gun in here. This is how I kind of work. That's the vacuum pump for drying the moisture out of it. This is a little job I've got to do up forward. This is stuff that I've cleaned from this rigging. This is rigging. So I kind of like lay stuff out in a way that I can kind of keep organized on the boat. Let's make a cup of coffee. I feel like it. But it's still only a fraction of all the stuff we have to run a boat like this, as you can imagine. I did not exactly plan for this bit, but we should be right. Okay, cool. Is that going to work? I think so. You can join me while I make a cup of coffee. Alrighty, cool, good. Yeah, Harkin Sailcoat is on the other side of me, like getting into like details. I think there's quite a lot of their one drop lube here. Maybe is the thing I'm thinking of. Now we need probably. So we can talk a little bit about this stove if you want while you're here. There's damage to the ceiling up here, you might notice. This is one of those little stove units that you get. People take them camping, barbecuing, all that kind of stuff. I've been using these onboard boats now for about 5 years. Okay, you take a coffee break, I'll take a coffee break. I've been using these ones for a couple of years now. I've used obviously like big pressurized gas cans in the back of the boat. It's harder with race boats because unless there's dedicated storage already been designed into the boat at the beginning of the boat, you have to kind of come up with a storage solution for gas. When I first got this boat, there was a proper pressurized gas cylinder in there and a hose that came up the back and a gas burner here. Like if anything goes wrong, that's it, right? I've used, so they're okay. That's a great system. Fine, proper cut off solenoid, all the rest of it. But then if you're on a race boat, there's nowhere to put it, right? There's no like lazarette locker or something. You've got to be able to drain the gas over the side of the boat, which then means it has to be above the level of the deck, which then means like deck boxes or gas cans like secured on deck. It doesn't work. So then I went on to alcohol. I had a Origo stove. Hang on, I need to get the stove going. I had an Origo stove. And I got to say, I learned to love the Origo stove. The issue with it was it's very, very slow. I remember crossing the Atlantic with 16 people. 16 people on a race boat. We crossed the Atlantic, and Jules, who was our chef for that one, cooked for everybody, and they were all very happy with this little burner's mate. I think the other one's gone now. Oh, is this even possible? On one of those, he cooked for 16 people for 16 days crossing the Atlantic. So I've been at the bottom. The Origo two burner stove was very, very good. We did burn the knobs off the stove on literally the first usage. We put a stove, and you think those things are 700 Canadian, and then by the time you bought the little swing set, which is actually what this is here, making this into a swinging unit, it's about 1,000 Canadian dollars, like 600 US. It's crazy. And then we burnt the knobs off the front of the stove in the first usage because the pans were too big. And the flame was coming out sideways and getting the front of the stove hot. And then when it got hot, it melted the knobs off. So that was pretty crap at the very beginning. But what I did learn with the Origo is that if you are smart with it and have a little pressure cooker, then the pressure cooker is a very efficient way to cook. So I learned that. And then I was looking, I've used an outward bound like pump action primer stoves. Oh shit, which one is it? Okay. Pump action primer stoves. But what happens then is that if you get what's he saying? Annoying when the fuel goes out and have to wait to cool off. Exactly right. Yeah. So the Origo's got those big pan things, and you have to take it on deck. And is it like it needs to be a third full? And those methyl. We used methyl hydrate. Have you got that? Hang on, I've got it here. Right. So in Canada, we can't get hold of the fuel very easily for the Origo, so we use this. This is methyl hydrate, and this is purchasable in gas stations because the truck drivers use it for de-icing their airlines on their trucks, right? So we use this in those Origos, and yeah, if the whole lot gets too hot, you have to like stop everything and wait before you can continue. But the great thing with that kind of fire and methyl hydrate fire is that you can put it out with water. If you haven't got alcohol on your boat, you might not know this, but it's a clear flame, but you can put it out with water. So it's good for safety. And if you use a pressure cooker, you can. I've had like lamb stew in the middle of the Atlantic. I think Regina made that, and it was absolutely delicious. And she brought all of her. Oh, no wonder it was so cold on this boat last night. She brought all of the lamb with her. She brought all the spuds with us. We're like 2 or 3 days out. It was delicious, big pan. But still, this thing with the Origo was what happens. You know, if the actual stuff catches light, you don't notice. When you're wearing clothing like this and you get a burning liquid into it, this starts acting like as a wick, and your fat starts acting as the thing that's burning, right? It gets in the stuff, it burns close to the skin melts, sorry to be gross, and then it starts to feed it. So you end up with very bad burns. This lot's all plastic, you can't get it off because it's melting. I've never been involved in a situation like that, but when I worked for Outward Bound, which I did for like 6 years as a senior instructor, these things come to you. So like fuel liquids make me nervous on boats. These things, which are very super popular in Hong Kong, they just have this little can, which is pretty much like the ones you use for filling up your lighter or something, right? It's butane. It's not very good when it gets cold. I often have to take these and just put them into a little bit of warm water just to get a bit of pressure in them. But they're only held together by this crimping at the bottom and the top. So if this explodes, it's no worse than a can of hairspray on a barbecue, on a bonfire, something like that, right? We had one of those happen on the Fastnet. There's damage here, there's damage here, there's damage you can't see. Well, I guess you can see. There's no front on here at all. So what happened was that John, who's a super clever guy, was a bit tired, and where this clicks into the unit and you have to kind of like pull a little lever and get it to connect, as he described later on, he kept trying to line it up and it wasn't quite working, and you could hear it going psh, 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 you know, but then he got it lined up, but then didn't think to wait and let the gas clear before he lit it. So I was on deck. We were just coming in towards the finish line, the last like 10 hours of the Fastnet, and there was a bang, like everything moved. I was like, Jesus, like piece of rigging let go. And I come running from the helm. There's a bit of a stunned John coming out, and all he did was burnt his eyebrows and had the shocker being involved in, you know, a big bang. But it was just one of these popping, and there was no injury, no issue whatsoever. So I'm still loving these stoves for the fact that when it all goes terribly wrong, it doesn't blow up that bad, which is the best I've seen so far. But yeah, what you do end up with is a lot of cans in cold weather. It's still got gas in it, but because of low pressure, you can't do anything about it. You have to take this, dip it into some warm, not hot water. That makes it gas again. You can get the last bit out, which is why I'm kind of hoarding these old cans. But let's get this in here now. There we go. Good to go, right? Got little water in bottles here. I've been trying to get the boat's water system and grey water system up to speed as much as I can, but it has left me this morning that the tap is not running. I'm not quite sure why, but my freshwater pump was running completely fine, and then it ran dry. I changed the pipe. I came back to it, and now it seems to be sucking at the tap. Like I literally got a cup of water this morning and put the cup of water up it, and it sucked it from the tap, which means unless the polarity of the boat's electronics has changed, or the planet's North Pole has moved or something, I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Probably something inside the pump now needs some kind of help. All right, good. Now you watch the stove for a second, and I'm going to go and get a battery, otherwise this lot's going to grind to a stop. Got a little power pack. Oh, it was great to see Justin on. Justin's been on this boat many times, but not much sailing. We need to get you out on this boat sometime. Newport Bermuda race? Alright, there we go. Plug you in. There you go. I'm almost organised. I've got a... Oh, the other thing I found the other morning, which was kind of interesting. This was in the bilge. I don't know what this is. This does not seem like the kind of thing it should be in the bilge. I'm guessing it's probably off the engine. It's a Volvo Penta TMD31. And I'm wondering if this is like a hose hanger from the side of the engine. This is not the kind of thing you want to find down in the engine bay on a boat like this, in any kind of boat. It's all fragmenting and falling apart, like, kind of couldn't believe it. And then you get the normal, like, nice little bits of stainless. Oh, he's gone back to his mama. Nice bits of stainless are a bit easier to kind of say, well, you know, I'll keep that, but finding that sucker, I couldn't believe it. Alright, so cup. This is, well, you don't need to look in there, but it's, this is me last night getting a bit hungry. Like, is there anything I can have as a snack on this boat? Like, oh, there's a brownie mix. I'm not quite sure what I thought I was going to do with the brownie mix, or anybody that bought it thought I was going to do with the brownie mix, but if you put it in a pan, you can just heat it up and then have it like chocolate pudding, I discovered. Quite how I'm going to get it back out the pan, I don't know. Right, we may as well bring this with us. If we're going to be in here, we may as well just get on it. Yes, that's the apocryphal story of people going past other boats in races at the bottom mark where there's a lot going on and just tossing a few clevis pins, washers and stuff over at the other boat, right? Get this whipping going while we're here. The good thing with those ones as well is that when you finish with the stove, you flick a little lever and it literally removes this thing from the system, so there's no way it can ever be just gassing off because something's left open or what have you. Alright, coffee. So we're reduced to milk powder at the moment. Not really because I can't get milk, but because rather the milk powder only has a certain lifespan. I do love having it on board, but when it comes time like, hey, this has been on board a month, it's like it's now got to go. And then Ken brought this stuff on board, which I don't know if you've had this before. I eat too much sugar. There's no two ways about it. So this stuff came on board. It's coconut sugar. Kind of smells odd. So I guess that's how it helps you with your sugar problem. But it doesn't taste odd, so not too bad. Hey, I tell you what, I'm going to get my glasses in this new environment here. Discovered a very worrying new habit that I have, which is eating half a fisherman's friend and then like leaving the other half for future Chris to find because it might be tasty, but what actually happens, it all melts. Yeah, the joke of doing it, I've never done it either, but I don't know. I don't know these days if it would worry me. Firstly, you'd have to throw some pretty big hardware on my deck for me to be going, has that come off my mast? When I went out trying to cross the Atlantic to get to Antigua in January, I got back here and I'd seen by the time I got back that my VHF antenna had just waggled itself right off its mount. Now, I fitted that myself before the beginning of the Fastnet race. A pretty good indicator the top of the rig is moving too much, it's pumping and needs tensioning up, right? But I was stood here at the dock, means we've already been alongside for a week, been through all sorts of wind, then I did that video where I brought the boat in here in reverse and parked up and all that sort of stuff. Probably 2 days later, I got up in the morning, I stood on the side grat having a smoke, and there was a clang, and as I looked up, I saw the antenna just fell from the rig, hit the deck and went straight into the water. Like, what can you do, right? It's like I can't get it back. It didn't float. I can't get a diver down there to get it. If I did, it probably wouldn't be right. So I'm getting quite relaxed about things that fall out of the rig now. As long as it's not the set number of things I know are very, very important, I'm okay. Set screws would be the thing, or fasteners from the back of the mainsail track, I think would be the issue. Right, we'll get on with this while we're talking as well. We'll do two things at once. I don't know how long this is. We're up to 2 hours now, although the first bit was without any kind of audio. So maybe do another 15 minutes and then we'll call it quits. I'll do another one later on when we're on deck. I'll make these up and then we'll actually go and fit them on the deck. Okay, so the first part of it is just wrapping it round and round like that. Oh man, I gotta make the coffee as well. I seem to end up doing a lot of rigging in this galley area. The galley is way too big for a racing boat, but it was intended for kind of a corporate interior, you know, for, well, corporate, like there's like a massive heads in there and there's a massive galley. But from my point of view, like I'm thinking of putting that's what this marks for, a stainless steel bar here and a stainless steel bar over here, and then basically making a mesh wall here and making in there about rigging, bringing the cooker out, the stove out and putting it in this area. So like this is the galley where I am now, and then that's for rigging because there's a hatch directly above here, and everything that comes from the mast that needs like a little something doing for it passes through here easily, and you end up standing here doing the rigging inside instead of having to do it on deck, which is nice. Oh, hang on, what else we got? Where we put my glasses? There we go. Seriously, starting to have a need wearing glasses when sailing. Oh, yeah, right. Well, cheap ones, man. Like I'm 48 now and I started needing glasses when I was 45, right? So I've been doing what everybody does, which is strain and look, and obviously contrast is going because when you're in dark conditions, then you've got your head torch on, and the thing that you're working on is behind something that's in front of you. So now the head torch is bouncing off the thing in front of you. Holy shit. So what I've been trying to do really for the glasses is I've been trying to make a plan for how I'm going to ultimately deal with it. How I'm ultimately going to deal with it, I'm going to get my eyes lasered. Once my eyes have stopped changing, which will be probably by the time I'm 50, whatever the prescription is then will be roughly, you know, what it's going to be, give or take. Certainly I'll get 10 or 15 years with one level of lasering. So I'm going to get this eye lasered so it's very good at short distance reading tasks, right? So what I've been doing, not this pair of glasses actually, but I'll make the change now. Look, if you get your, just take one lens out. So when I have these or any other pair of glasses, I'm teaching this eye to get very good at like up close stuff. So I can read your message here, okay? And then this eye is getting practiced at looking longer distance. And this is a very common way that they will deal with people like ourselves who are getting older and need to get their eyes lasered, because you can only get them like set to one focal length, right? I've got long distance vision in both eyes. It's up close that's going. So I'm training one to get good at being good at up close stuff, and my brain naturally changes to that. And then that'll leave the other one for long distance. That's my plan. And then these are 1.25 readers, and I'd say there's 6 pairs of them on board. There's literally, I have one next to my bed with a head torch. I have one next to where I stand over there where we started. There's normally one around here. There's one on deck with the rigging gear. It's the only way I can deal with it. It's the only way I can deal with it. I just have to be the guy that's got the cheap glasses on for now. You know, if the lens pops out, as you can see, I get them all from the same cheapo manufacturer, who is, I think, Foster Grant. They sell them at the gas station. And then if you crack the frame, what have you, no problem. Everything's interchangeable. All the screws are interchangeable. Like, it's the only way I can deal with it. Bloody frustrating though. Bloody frustrating. But that's what happens, right? Oh, where's my needle and palm? Actually, I tell you what, if I put them on now, I'll avoid a lot of hassle that goes with this. Yeah, so with these, actually, that's, yeah, that's pretty good. All right, wrapped around. And we come back to, so I entered the whipping at the top here, and I've just done a spiral round and round, and I get back to the bottom. So I've done a couple of turns here. It's about 10 millimeters, half an inch long. I'm going to take this now, I'm going to insert it into the splice, but I'm going to go, instead of going straight through, I'm going to go diagonally that way, okay? So I've got to put it in my hands to do that. And that's where we can take the metal bit in the center of the sailor's palm and drive it in this way. Let me get the angle right. Oh, there you go, pretty good. Okay, so first one's in. Yep. Now we've come out on the other side, and we're going to go just the length of the whipping. Again, instead of going through it like that way, we're going to go through and go diagonally up. Now, I pretty much have these days only one whipping I use for pretty much everything. And a lot of this design with the diagonal through the center coming out is to do with the fact that you normally make this on the end of a rope. If you make a whipping like this on the end of a rope, and you take the needle and go crosswise across the workpiece, then let's just have a look at that. Okay, so we got that bit in there now. Got one on one side, one on the other side. If you're making this like in the end of a line, which is where most people are putting whippings most of the time, you've got the you go through this way, but then if the whipping's right on the end of the line, you've got a little piece of thread which is going across the rope, and it's very easy for that end one to fall off the end of the line, and now it's shorter, and that means a little bit of looseness is in that whipping, and over time it will shake itself free. So because you go in and you go diagonally back, come through, go up, go diagonally up, everything is pulling the whipping back onto the line. And because I only use one now, even though I'm right in the middle of the line, it gets the same kind of whipping. So we've got one there, and then we should come out pretty much where that first tuck was, where we first went in. We now go through the bottom, and then what you'll see is I'm going to have to go and get a tool to pull this through, because this should get so tight that it's not going to want to come loose. You see how I'm like bracing everything here, holding everything, drive it through. But now I've got to get the line through, so I need a tool. Hang on. There you go, got a little pair of mole grips. Just grab a hold of that and pull it through if I've actually closed them up enough. And the fact that it's so hard to pull it through should be your indicator that you've done it right, because it should be absolutely solid by the time it's made up. We say it's the discussion about the glasses that's most interesting now. Sailing the sweet water seas. I've got cheap readers sprinkled all over my house and the barn. I can read something from across the room, but anything less than arm's length and I'm useless. I feel you, man. And now I feel for my father as well. You know, all those years spent, I was a mechanic with him when I was young. Like from being 10, I was working in his garage, and he'd be trying to, he was a man also, he'd never use head torches. He always had like an inspection lamp, which I don't know, maybe in his world, oh, I made a bit of a mess there. In his world, that was obviously something that was working better for him by using the inspection lamp under the cars. But for me, I'm like a head torch person all the time. But I do recognize that if you are not careful, you start to rely on it in such a way that if you don't have the head torch, you don't have the readers to hand, suddenly you realize I can't do this. I had it a couple times, like trying to get the combination lock off the bicycle. The bicycle's got a headlamp. I've probably got a head torch somewhere. The combination lock is down the side of the bike. It's evening. I've come out of the restaurant, like I can't see the bloody, so I have to leave the combination lock now with like only 1 or 2 digits, like very carefully out of place, so you can put it back into place and move along and not look like a complete blind guy. All right, so we'll cut those guys off, that guy off. Actually, what I might just do with this, where it's exited there, you know, it's pretty unsightly, right? So you can just take this then, and we're trying to fatten up whatever's going on inside that lump now. So we just take this and just drive it headlong through here. And that's just fattening everything in there up, making it, you're kind of adding extra pinch. There we go. And it's better to use something like mole grips on those, because the reality is with pliers, you might not be able to get a grip, and you just strip all the chroming off the needle. All right, cool. Now we go with this. Don't really want to bring my work into the galley, but you know, whatever. Okay, so we've got our little eyelet, which is going to go onto the lower part of the block. We've got the McDonald Brummel splice at the top there. At the narrowest area, we've got a whipping, and then we've got this nice thinned, feathered splice running down inside here, right to here, and that is the beginning of what will then be a lashing going round and round and round at the back of the boat, and then round and round this way. We'll do the whole thing later on, and securing the back of the boat. So with a breaking strain of about 7,000 kilos. By the time we've got 4 wraps on this, we're actually exceeding the rupture load on the forestay. So I'm very happy that 4 of these then will be able to give us many years of service, and it's nicely inspectable, easily inspectable. So I've got 3 more of those to do. You can see once you've done this bit on the end, it's pretty quick. I do have to tidy that up a bit though. Like if things are right, then they're right, and if they're not right, they're not right. Obviously I'm doing it here and chatting and hanging out and doing all the rest of the stuff, but I'll probably take that later on and just put some proper tension on that with a winch and just get everything to bed back in nicely. Like, if I can't give this boat enough time of day to make nice looking stuff as well as structural stuff, like when am I going to start using my skills for for good? If not now, then when, right? All right, well, we'll finish up this live stream with a coffee. We'll have another 5 or 10 minutes here, and then we'll get going. Has anybody got any questions before we finish up here? Man, I need some cold water in there. I don't want to have to walk all the way back to the tap to get a splash of cold water for my coffee. So yeah, if you're interested to come sailing, thanks Ron, no problem at all. I'm going to do more of these. It's pretty easy. It's a bit of an odd thing to do live, as you can imagine. Like I don't spend the rest of my life being under public kind of observation, but it's lovely doing it here. And if I can, I learned so much this morning. I remembered that I have a ceramic knife, which made life easier. I learned to put Teflon on the needle, which certainly helps with smaller stuff. I like that. So whether I'm learning or teaching, I'm always happy to be here and share this stuff with you. So if anybody's interested to go do the the Newport Bermuda race with me, have a look at csmthemariner.com. Make contact there on the contact page. Normally have like an hour-long conversation with people just to find we got the right vibe. You can see what's going on this boat. You know what's going on with the wider project. It's been a pity in the past when we've had people on board who don't kind of get what it is to be at sea and can end up being a bit sour about the conditions on the boat, which it's a pretty nice boat to be on for a 5-day race. If you don't like this, you really shouldn't be out doing this kind of racing, but we don't want to discover that when we're already on the event. So just have an hour-long conversation, and then yeah, people are getting together. We've got 11 of the crew organized already, and we'll be getting on with the 20 when we actually get to the race start. So have a look for that. But I'm going to finish my coffee now. Thanks very much for stopping by. Please put a like, a little comment, subscribe. All that stuff really helps the algorithm. I'm going to do a little bit of work to get these finished up. Then we'll reposition the camera in this afternoon for me, and do another live feed when the US is online, and we'll chat through putting them onto the back of the boat. But for now, that's everything. Thank you very much for stopping by, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Cheers.